Commander Heather Mills watched as the first barrage from her ship, the Vengeance, tore through the unprepared alien fleet. The Graviton Lance's weapons the hegemony believed impossible for primitive species to develop sliced through advanced shielding, as if it were paper quantum torpedoes guided by AI systems far more sophisticated than anything the aliens possessed, found their marks with unerring precision. The battle began with shocking suddenness. The hegemony ships stationed around Jupiter had been arranged for efficiency, not defense, their arrogance evident in their lack of battle formations. They had expected no resistance from the primitives of Earth status report. Mills called to her bridge crew, her voice calm despite the chaos. Unfolding on the viewscreen, direct hits on 3 command vessels, reports Weapons Officer Susan Baker. Her fingers danced across the tactical display, adjusting targeting parameters for maximum effect. 2. Completely disabled 1 heavily damaged enemy. Return fire minimal and uncoordinated. The Earth ships had been designed with one purpose: to strike hard and fast, exploiting the weaknesses humanity had spent decades identifying in hegemony technology. The stealth approach had worked perfectly. Not a single Earth vessel had been detected before the first devastating volley around Jupiter. The alien fleet scrambled to respond, their communications filled with confusion and panic. Some ships attempted to form defensive positions while others fired wildly into space, hoping to hit the attackers. Several tried to flee, only to encounter more Earth vessels waiting in ambush. Mills directed her ship through the chaos with practiced precision. The Vengeance moved like a predator, striking where the enemy was weakest, then repositioning before effective countermeasures could be deployed. The ship itself was a marvel of engineering, incorporating reverse-engineered alien technology with unique human innovations. It represented decades of secret development. Communications Officer Diana Foster looked up from her station. Commander, we are intercepting their distress calls. They are broadcasting to the hegemony Central Command. Mills nodded. Let them. We want the hegemony to know exactly what happened here. The Earth strategy was not simply to win this battle, but to send a message. The hegemony needed to understand that humanity was not the easy prey they had anticipated. As the battle progressed, the initial shock advantage began to fade. Some hegemony ships managed to organize a counterattack, focusing their fire on the Earth vessel. Defiance damage report on the Defiance. Mills asked Foster. Listened to incoming communications. The Defiance reports shield damage at 30%, but systems remain operational. Captain Mendez requests permission to execute Maneuver Delta. 7 approved. Mills replied, and tell Strike Group 3 to move into support. The battle continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Earth forces had trained for this specific scenario for decades. Their ships' weapons and tactics had been developed with this exact enemy in mind. The hegemony vessels, despite their advanced technology, were fighting an opponent who knew all their weaknesses. By the 6th hour, it was over. The Jupiter invasion force had been reduced to debris floating among the gas giants' moons. Some hegemony ships had managed to escape, moving at maximum speed toward the system. Edge let them go. Mills ordered when a weapons officer asked about pursuing the retreating vessels. They will carry our message. The survivors broadcast distress signals as they fled. Earth forces made no attempt to jam these transmissions. In fact, they enhanced them, ensuring the message was received clearly throughout hegemony space. Aboard the Vengeance, the bridge crew maintained professional composure, but there was an undercurrent of elation. They had struck the first blow in a war decades in preparation, and it had been a resounding victory. Mills opened a channel to all Earth vessels. Attention, all ships. This is Commander Mills. The first phase of Operation Thunderstrike is complete. Proceed to secondary positions and prepare for Phase 2. The hegemony will respond with greater force. We must be ready. The Earth fleet dispersed, some returning to hidden bases for resupply, others moving to predetermined defensive positions throughout the solar system. The real war was just beginning. Back at Lunar Command, Admiral Donovan received the EIS battle reports with grim satisfaction. Casualties, she asked Lieutenant Walsh. Minimal, Admiral. The Intrepid reports 2 crew members with minor injuries from a power surge. The Defiance took moderate damage to its port shield generator but remains Combat effective. No other significant damage or casualties reported. Donovan nodded. Better than expected. The simulations had predicted at least one ship lost in the initial engagement. The hegemony had proven even less prepared than intelligence. Suggested on. The main view screen tactical displays showed the fleeing alien vessels. Their trajectory would take them to the nearest hegemony outpost, a journey of several days, even with their advanced propulsion. How long until their reinforcements arrive? Walsh asked. Donovan's expression remained neutral. Based on their known response patterns, 2 weeks minimum, possibly 3. They will not make the same mistakes twice. The next force will be much larger. Walsh studied the Admiral. Have we revealed too much of our capabilities? No. Donovan replied. We showed them exactly what we wanted them to see. Our most advanced weapons remain unused. Our true fleet strength remains hidden. Phase 1 was designed to shock and confuse. Phase 2 will demonstrate our resolve throughout the solar system. Earth continued its preparations. What had been the work of decades now accelerated. Mars bases, activated defensive shields, hidden facilities throughout the asteroid belt, increased production of munitions, and spare parts. The orbital defense platforms disguised as communication satellites around Earth itself revealed their true nature, unfurling weapon systems that had remained dormant for years. In shipyards beneath the lunar surface, new vessels were being readied for deployment. These ships represented the next generation of Earth military technology, incorporating lessons learned from decades of studying. The hegemony commander Mills returned to Lunar Command to debrief the Vengeance docked in a massive underground hangar, joining dozens of similar vessels. As she made her way through, the base personnel stopped to acknowledge her. Some offered quiet congratulations, others simply nodded in respect. The victory at Jupiter had transformed the war from theoretical to real. The debriefing took place in a secure room deep within the complex. Admiral Donovan and the senior command staff listened as Mills detailed the engagement. The graviton lances performed beyond expectations, Mills explained. They penetrated hegemony shields with minimal power degradation. Their targeting systems appeared completely unprepared for our approach vectors, and their response asked Admiral Donovan. Confusion primarily, Mills replied. They had no coordinated defense strategy. Their communications were chaotic. Some vessels attempted to flee immediately. Others tried to fight, but with no cohesive plan. Their weapons, while powerful, were poorly deployed. Donovan turned to Dr. Olivia Reyes, head of xenopsychology. What does this tell us about their psychology? Dr. Reyes had spent decades studying intercepted hegemony communications and the behavior patterns of their scout ships. Her analysis had been crucial in developing the Earth strategy. It confirms our theory that the hegemony has grown complacent. Admiral, their empire has expanded for centuries with minimal resistance. They genuinely believed us incapable of meaningful defense, let alone an offensive capacity. This victory will shock them to their core. Their response will be emotional as much as tactical. What will they do next? Mills asked. They will bring overwhelming force. Dr. Reyes answered. Their cultural imperative demands a decisive response to any challenge to their authority. But they will also be cautious now. They know we have technology. They thought impossible. They will be confused, uncertain. Donovan nodded, exactly as planned. The hegemony would respond with massive force, but that force would be deployed with hesitation, doubt. The psychological advantage would be crucial in the coming battle. As the meeting concluded, Donovan addressed the gathered officers. Phase 1 is complete. Now we prepare for the real test. The hegemony will return. Their full fury will be directed at Earth. We must be ready to show them ours. Throughout the solar system, humanity prepared for war. A war that had been coming for 80 years. A war they had hoped to avoid but had always known was inevitable. The deception was over. Now the galaxy would learn what humanity was truly capable of when pushed too far. The galactic hegemony response was swift and furious. A fleet 10 times larger than the first arrived at the edge of the solar system 17 days after the Jupiter battle. Leading this armada was High Admiral Zerkath, the most decorated military commander in hegemony history. His record showed no defeats in 3 centuries of service. Admiral Donovan studied the incoming fleet data in her office at Lunar Command. The holographic display showed hundreds of warships moving in tight formation. Their approach was cautious, methodical. Nothing like the casual arrogance of the first invasion force. Dr. Olivia Reyes, head of xenopsychology, pointed to patterns in the fleet arrangement. They are angry, but also confused. Their formation is defensive. Despite their overwhelming numbers, they expected a primitive species but encountered advanced technology. They bring massive force but deploy it with caution. Donovan nodded. This confirms our strategy worked. Now it's time for Phase 2. Throughout the solar system, a transformation began. What alien observers had believed to be primitive Earth cities were in many cases elaborate covers for military complexes. The orbital defense platforms disguised as communication satellites revealed their true nature, weapon systems unfolding from what had appeared to be solar panels and communication dishes on Mars. What had seemed to be failed human colonies suddenly dropped their camouflage fields, revealing vast manufacturing centers. And in the asteroid belt, mining operations transformed into shipyards launching vessels that had been built in secret. Over decades, Lieutenant Walsh entered the office with a secure tablet. Admiral, the final preparations are complete. All defense grids are operational. The fleet is in position. Civilian populations have been moved to the underground shelters. We are ready. Donovan took the tablet, reviewing the information. The decades of deception were over. Now Earth would reveal its true capabilities. The plan had always been to hide their strength until the hegemony committed their full force to conquest. Send the activation codes, Lieutenant Itz. Time to show the hegemony what they are truly facing. Walsh nodded and transmitted the commands. Throughout the solar system, hidden installations powered up systems that had remained dormant for years. In Earth orbit, massive defense platforms emerged from concealment, their weapon systems charging with energy signatures deliberately designed to be detectable by hegemony sensors. The incoming alien fleet detected these activations. Their advance slowed as they processed the unexpected readings. Their scouts reported defensive capabilities far beyond what should be possible for Earth technology aboard his command vessel. High Admiral Zerkath received these reports with growing concern. He had expected to find a primitive world cowering after their lucky victory at Jupiter. Instead, sensors showed a fortress system bristling with advanced weapons. His intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. Send a communication to the humans. Zerkath ordered his communications officer. The universal translator should be sufficient for their primitive language. Tell them to surrender immediately or face extinction. The message was transmitted toward Earth. The response came not as a text communication, but as a video transmission. Admiral Donovan's face appeared on screens throughout the alien fleet. This is Earth Unified Command to Hegemony Forces. For 70 years, we have observed your expansion, your conquests, your enslavement of species deemed inferior. We learned your languages, studied your technology, and prepared. What you witnessed at Jupiter was but a fraction of our capabilities. We have held back. We will not do so again. The transmission ended, leaving the hegemony fleet in stunned silence. Zerkath studied the human female who had addressed him with such confidence, such arrogance. Despite the impressive defensive display, Earth could not possibly stand against his full fleet. Still, caution was warranted. The Jupiter debacle had cost the lives of thousands of hegemony warriors. The alien fleet resumed its advance, moving past the orbit of Neptune. They encountered no resistance, which only increased. Their unease sensors continued to detect energy signatures throughout the system, but no Earth vessels moved to intercept them. It was as if the humans were waiting, allowing them to approach. When the fleet reached the orbit of Uranus, they discovered why suddenly space itself seemed to distort around several of their scout ships. Quantum torpedoes materialized seemingly from nowhere. The weapons detonated with precision, disabling the scouts without destroying them. Zerkath ordered an immediate defensive formation, but the source of the attack remained undetectable. Earth had developed true stealth technology, another capability the hegemony had believed impossible for primitive species. Move the fleet forward, Zerkath commanded. We will not be deterred by these tricks. The armada continued its advance, but more ships fell victim to the invisible attackers. The hegemony responded by firing into empty space, hoping to hit the hidden vessels. Their energy weapons illuminated the darkness, but found no targets at Saturn. The next phase of Earth's defense revealed itself. Hidden bases on several moons activated massive cannon emplacements. Concentrated energy beams lanced out, striking with precision. The hegemony ships raised shields, absorbing the initial barrage, but the attack forced them to slow their advance. On Lunar Command, Admiral Donovan watched the battle unfold. The strategy was working perfectly. The hegemony fleet was being delayed, worn down, and confused all before reaching the inner system where Earth's true strength waited. They still believe they can win, Donovan observed. Their arrogance is so ingrained they cannot conceive of defeat, despite the evidence before them. Dr. Reyes nodded, studying the enemy movements. The hegemony has conquered hundreds of worlds over thousands of years. They see themselves as the natural rulers of the galaxy. To accept that a species they considered primitive could challenge them would shatter their entire worldview. The battle continued as the alien fleet pushed past Saturn. Their numbers were reduced but still overwhelming. The Earth forces maintained their hit-and-run tactics, striking from stealth, then disappearing before effective countermeasures could be deployed. The hegemony response grew increasingly desperate, their formation losing cohesion as ships fired at sensor ghosts. When the invasion force reached Jupiter, where their first defeat had occurred, Earth unveiled another surprise. From bases hidden within the gas giant's many moons, a swarm of autonomous combat drones deployed. These small unmanned craft moved with impossible speed, targeting the engines and weapon systems of the larger hegemony vessels. Zerkath watched in mounting anger as his fleet was harassed by these devices too small to target effectively, with main weapons too numerous to intercept with defensive systems. These humans were not fighting with honor. They refused to meet his forces in direct combat. A new transmission came from Earth. This time it was Commander Mills, her image appearing on the hegemony command screens. Hi, Admiral Zerkath. Your reputation precedes you. The histories of 17 conquered worlds speak of your tactical brilliance, but you have never faced humanity. We studied your victories, learned your strategies. We know how you think better than you know yourself. You believe yourself, the hunter. You are mistaken. The transmission ended, leaving Zerkath seething with rage. He ordered his fleet to maximum acceleration. Enough of these games. They would reach Earth and end this insolent species. As the hegemony fleet approached the asteroid belt, they encountered a new defensive line. Earth battlecruisers led by the Vengeance under Commander Mills emerged from hiding positions. These ships, unlike the earlier stealth attackers, engaged directly, their weapons technologies matching or exceeding hegemony capabilities. The battle raged through the asteroid belt, Earth vessels using the terrain to tactical advantage. The human ships demonstrated maneuverability that seemed impossible for their size, ducking behind asteroids to avoid enemy fire, then emerging to launch devastating counterattacks. Commander Mills directed the defense with calculated precision. Her years of training in simulated combat against hegemony tactics now paying dividends. She anticipated Zerkath's moves, ordering her forces to positions that maximized their defensive advantage while creating kill zones for enemy ships. The hegemony fleet still held a numerical advantage, but that advantage was diminishing. Their formation had been disrupted, their coordination compromised. Individual ship captains began acting independently, some pressing the attack, others falling back to defensive positions. The unified armada was becoming a disorganized collection of vessels on Lunar Command. Admiral Donovan received regular updates. The battle was proceeding according to projections. Casualties were within acceptable parameters. The defense of the asteroid belt was not designed to stop the hegemony advance, merely to weaken and disorganize it further. The true battle would come at Mars as the fighting in the asteroid belt reached its peak. Commander Mills ordered a strategic withdrawal. Her forces disengaged, moving back toward Mars in apparent retreat. Zerkath ordered pursuit, believing he had finally gained the advantage. The hegemony fleet followed the retreating Earth vessels directly into the trap, waiting. At Mars, hidden bases across the Red Planet activated massive defense systems. Energy weapons, graviton disruptors, and quantum field generators all targeted the approaching alien ships. The Mars defensive grid caught the hegemony fleet in a crossfire. Ships that had survived the earlier engagements now found themselves under attack from multiple directions. The carefully laid trap closed. Admiral Elaine Donovan stood before the massive view screen on Lunar Command, watching as alien ships entered the solar system. The sight was becoming familiar over the years, but this time something felt different. The alien vessels were larger, more numerous, and moved with purpose instead of the casual drift of scout ships. This was no reconnaissance mission. This was the beginning of an invasion. For decades, Earth had maintained a careful illusion of technological backwardness. The galactic hegemony believed humans to be primitive, barely worth the resources required for conquest. But the truth was far different. Humanity had detected their scout ships nearly 80 years ago. Earth leaders made a decision that would shape human destiny. Appear weak while secretly preparing for war. Admiral Donovan turned to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Kate Walsh. Her face remained calm despite the gravity of the moment. The time has come. Kate, prepare to activate Operation Thunderstrike, Lieutenant. Walsh nodded and moved to the communication station. Her fingers flew across the control panel, sending encrypted messages to hidden installations throughout the solar system. What the hegemony did not know was that beneath the surfaces of various moons and asteroids lay the true might of humanity. Ships with technology far beyond what aliens believed possible, waited in hidden docks, weapon systems dormant for decades prepared to spring to life. The deception had been total. For 80 years, humans had projected an image of primitive space capabilities while secretly salvaging alien technology from crashed scout ships capturing spies and intercepting transmissions. Every bit of knowledge was incorporated into a war machine the hegemony could not imagine. The main view screen shifted to show a massive alien vessel approaching Jupiter. It was followed by dozens of support craft. The sheer size of the command ship dwarfed anything the aliens had previously sent into human space. Admiral Donovan pressed her hand against a biometric scanner embedded in her command chair. A hidden compartment slid open, revealing a red activation key. This is it, the moment we have prepared for. She inserted the key and turned it. A series of lights illuminated across the command center as systems long dormant came online. Throughout the solar system, similar activation sequences occurred, deep beneath the lunar surface hidden from alien sensors. Massive doors slid open, revealing rows of sleek warships. Their designs incorporated elements of alien technology, but with distinctly human innovations. The ships had never seen combat yet. Every crew member had trained in virtual simulations for years. On Mars, similar facilities powered up inside massive asteroids. Throughout the belt, manufacturing centers increased production to maximum capacity. What had appeared to be failed human colonies on various moons suddenly dropped their camouflage fields, revealing military bases. Lieutenant Walsh approached with a data tablet fleet status report. Admiral, all vessels report, ready for deployment. Phase 1, defensive grid is online, and Phase 2, offensive capabilities are standing. Donovan nodded and took the tablet, scanning the information. The decades of preparation were about to be tested. There would be no second chances. Send word to all command staff. Priority Alpha. The meeting will commence in 30 minutes. Throughout the lunar base, military officers hurried through corridors, their faces grim, with determination. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Some had spent decades in the Secret Service, never telling their families the true nature of their work. All for this day. The command meeting took place in a secure room deep within the lunar facility. Around a circular table sat the 12 fleet commanders who would lead the first strike. All veterans of the secret space program, all aware of the burden they carried. The survival of humanity rests with us. Donovan began, her voice steady. We have observed the hegemony for 80 years. We know their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. Today we strike first. She activated a holographic display showing the alien fleet approaching Jupiter. Their arrogance will be their downfall. They believe us primitive, weak, unprepared. This error in judgment will cost them dearly, Commander. Heather Mills, leader of Strike Force Alpha, spoke up. Her dark eyes reflected the holographic display of enemy ships. My teams are ready. Admiral the Vengeance and her sister ships can deploy within the hour. We can approach under complete stealth and be in firing position before they know we exist. Excellent, Commander Mills. Strike Force Alpha will lead the first assault target there. Command vessels first. Then move to support craft. Donovan turned to another officer. Commander Allison Grant, Head of Defense Systems. Commander Grant, what is the status of our defense grid? The grid is fully operational. Admiral, any attempt to approach Earth will be met with immediate response. Our calculations suggest even their largest vessels cannot withstand concentrated fire from our orbital platforms. The meeting continued as each commander reported readiness. After years of preparation there were surprisingly few questions. Everyone knew their role. The plan had been rehearsed countless times. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Donovan stood before her commanders. One final message before we begin. Our ancestors looked to the stars with hope and wonder. The hegemony saw our curiosity and mistook it for weakness. Today they learn the truth. Humanity is not prey. We are the predators. They should have feared. Throughout the solar system, Earth forces moved into position. The first wave consisted of 30 stealth vessels led by Commander Mills aboard the Vengeance. They approached the alien fleet gathering around Jupiter, using the moons and rings for cover. The aliens had begun mining operations extracting resources from the outer planets. They worked with casual efficiency, unaware they were being watched. Their sensors occasionally swept the area, but the Earth ships remained undetected. Their stealth technology was one of many innovations the hegemony believed impossible. For humans aboard the Vengeance, Commander Mills watched the enemy through advanced imaging systems. She had waited years for this moment, trained countless hours in simulation. Now she would strike the first blow in a war the enemy did not yet know had begun. The order came through on a secure channel. Operation Thunderstrike is now active. Weapons free. Commander Good Hunting Mills nodded to her weapons officer Susan Baker, who had been with her since the academy. The two had trained together for this moment. Target their command vessel. Prepare graviton lances and quantum torpedoes. Fire when ready across the Jupiter system. 30 Earth vessels decloak simultaneously. Their weapon systems powered up, targeting the most vital enemy ships. The element of surprise was total. The hegemony fleet had no warning. The battle for Earth had begun, and humanity was no longer holding back. The battle for Earth began as the remnants of the hegemony fleet approached the Earth-Moon system. What had started as an overwhelming alien force was now reduced to less than half its original strength. Yet even diminished, they outnumbered the visible Earth defenses. High Admiral Zerkath stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Inevitable Conquest. His tall, gaunt form towered over the other officers. His species evolved as apex predators, and the genetic memory of countless hunts guided his military strategy. Throughout his long career, no prey had ever escaped once he committed to the chase. These humans would be no different. The first line of Earth defense came into range. The orbital platforms humanity had disguised as communications satellites for decades now revealed their true purpose. Massive energy weapons charged, focusing on the approaching fleet. Fire all weapons, Zerkath commanded. Target those platforms first, then move to planetary bombardment. These humans will learn the consequence of defying the hegemony. His fleet responded with a coordinated barrage. Energy weapons and graviton missiles launched toward Earth. The humans had fought well using stealth and hit-and-run tactics, but now they would face the direct might of the greatest military force in the galaxy. What happened next stunned even the experienced admiral. The Earth defense platforms generated overlapping energy fields, creating a shield that absorbed the initial hegemony attack. Then they returned. Fire. Their weapons technologies showing precision and power that matched or exceeded hegemony capabilities. On lunar command, Admiral Donovan watched the battle unfold. Lieutenant Walsh stood at her side monitoring defensive systems, shield integrity. At 92%, Walsh reported all defense platforms functioning at optimal capacity. The lunar defense grid is fully charged and ready. Donovan nodded, maintaining her calm demeanor despite the scale of the battle unfolding before them. For decades Earth had prepared for this moment. The hegemony believed they were attacking a primitive world. They were instead attacking the most heavily defended planet in the sector phase. 3 Commander Donovan ordered, "Activate the lunar defense." Grid beneath the lunar surface, massive weapon emplacements powered up energy signatures deliberately hidden until this moment flared to life. The moon itself seemed to glow with power as dozens of previously concealed installations activated there. Combined firepower surpassed anything the hegemony had yet encountered. The lunar defense grid opened fire. Concentrated energy beams lanced out, striking with unerring accuracy. The hegemony ships raised shields, but many found their defenses inadequate against weapons specifically designed to counter their technology. On his flagship, Zerkath watched in growing horror as ship after ship went dark. He had committed his forces based on fundamentally flawed intelligence the humans had hidden there. True capabilities for decades, creating the illusion of a primitive civilization while building defenses beyond anything his scouts had reported. "How is this possible?" he demanded, turning to his science officer. "These weapons should be beyond their technological level." The science officer, a member of the hegemony elite research caste, studied the readings with growing concern. They appear to have incorporated elements of our own technology. "High Admiral, but with innovations we have not seen before. The energy signatures suggest they have solved the quantum resonance problem our scientists have struggled with for centuries." Zerkath absorbed this information with mounting rage. The implications were staggering. These humans had not only observed hegemony technology but improved upon it. This went beyond mere resistance. This was an existential threat to hegemony. Dominance. Despite the devastating lunar barrage, the hegemony fleet continued its advance. Zerkath ordered his remaining ships to push through to Earth. Their mission had changed from conquest to extermination. At that moment, Earth unveiled another surprise. The ocean surfaces rippled as massive structures rose from the depths. Humanity had built underwater bases equipped with advanced weapon systems. These installations now joined the battle, targeting the hegemony ships that had managed to penetrate the outer defenses. Commander Mills and her battle cruisers moved to intercept the remaining alien vessels. The Vengeance led the attack squadron, demonstrating combat capabilities that matched the best hegemony warships. The Earth vessels coordinated perfectly, creating overlapping fields of fire that left no escape route. Mills studied the tactical display aboard the Vengeance. They had the hegemony fleet surrounded, caught between the lunar defenses, the orbital platforms, the ground-based installations, and her attack group. Yet the aliens continued to fight, showing no sign of surrender. "Status report," she called. To her weapons officer, Susan Baker checked her console. "Enemy flagship shields at 30%. Several critical systems showing damage, but they continue to return fire. Their secondary vessels are attempting to regroup around the flagship." Mills nodded. These hegemony commanders were nothing if not persistent. They would fight to the last ship. This was expected. Earth strategy had never been based on the assumption of enemy surrender. "Open a channel to Admiral Donovan," Mills ordered. The Admiral's face appeared on the view screen. "Commander Mills, what is your assessment?" "Their formation is breaking down," Admiral Mills reported. "They no longer function as a coordinated fleet, but they show no signs of retreat." High Admiral Zerkath continues to press. The attack. Donovan considered this information. For decades, they had studied hegemony psychology. Their cultural imperative demanded victory at any cost. Surrender was not in their nature. This too had been anticipated in Earth. Defense planning implement. Containment protocol Gamma 3. Donovan ordered Mills, "Understand, your new objective is not destruction but capture. We need their flagship." Intact. Mills acknowledged the order with a sharp nod. The battle plan shifted from elimination to surgical precision. Her ships adjusted formation, focusing fire on the supporting vessels while carefully avoiding critical damage to the hegemony flagship. On his command ship, Zerkath watched his fleet disintegrating around him, ship after ship disabled or destroyed. The humans were showing combat prowess that rivaled the most elite hegemony forces. His anger gave way to a growing sense of dread. These humans were not merely defending, they were hunting. The inevitable conquest shuddered as another impact struck its shields. The shield generators whined, struggling to maintain integrity. The ship had taken significant damage but remained operational. Surkath would not surrender. He ordered all remaining power diverted to weapons. The flagship accelerated toward Earth. If he could not conquer these humans, he would at least strike a devastating blow to their homeworld. His plan never came to fruition. The Vengeance and 2 supporting Earth vessels moved to intercept their weapons targeting the hegemony. Flagship's propulsion systems with surgical precision. The massive alien vessel slowed, then stopped dead in space, its engines disabled. Surkath raged, ordering his crew to restore power to engage emergency systems to continue the fight. But the humans had anticipated every contingency. Earth forces surrounded the crippled flagship, their weapons trained on critical systems. A communication came through on all frequencies. Commander Mill's face appeared on the hegemony bridge displays. "Hi, Admiral. Surkath, your vessel is disabled. Your fleet is destroyed. You have 2 options: surrender or destruction. The choice is yours. But be aware, we prefer the first. Humanity has questions that you will answer." The alien admiral stared at the human female, with a mixture of rage and disbelief. In his centuries of service, he had never faced defeat. Now this primitive species had not only defeated him, but was offering terms as if they were the superior power. "I do not surrender to lesser beings." Surkath declared. Mill's expression remained neutral. "I understand your position, Admiral. But consider this. Your defeat here is already sending shockwaves through the hegemony. The quantum communications we allowed your ships to transmit ensured that your leaders are watching this battle unfold. They see a force they believed invincible brought low by humans. The political consequences for your civilization will be significant. Your choice now determines whether the hegemony loses only its pride, or also its greatest military commander." The logic was undeniable. Even Surkath, with his predator instincts, could see the strategic reality. His duty to the hegemony now required him to survive, to report, to bring back intelligence about this unexpected threat. The battle for Earth ended not with the destruction of the hegemony flagship, but with its surrender. The remaining alien vessels followed their admiral's example, powering down weapons and accepting Earth escort to designated holding areas throughout the solar system. The fighting gradually ceased. Earth forces maintained vigilance, securing disabled hegemony ships and recovering their own damaged vessels. Casualties had been surprisingly light given the scale of the conflict. The decades of preparation had paid off on Lunar Command. Admiral Donovan received the final battle reports across the system. Earth installations began powering down, returning to their disguised states. The immediate threat was over, but Donovan knew this was merely the beginning. The hegemony had suffered its first major defeat in centuries. Their response would be significant. Lieutenant Walsh approached with a secure tablet. "Admiral, the preliminary interrogation of captured hegemony officers is complete. The data confirms. Our intelligence, their central worlds are minimally defended. They never expected to fight a war this far from their core systems." Donovan nodded, studying the information. 6 months after the first hegemony incursion into the Sol system, representatives from both sides met on neutral ground, a space station orbiting Proxima Centauri. The station itself was of human design, constructed in secret decades earlier as part of Earth's contingency planning. Admiral Donovan led the Earth delegation. Her uniform was simple but elegant, designed to project authority without unnecessary ostentation. She was accompanied by Lieutenant Walsh, Commander Mills, Dr. Olivia Reyes, and several other key military and scientific personnel. They entered the conference chamber with measured confidence. The hegemony delegation arrived with considerably less composure. Their representatives included members of the Supreme Council, the governing body that had directed their galactic empire for over 1,000 years. These ancient beings had never expected to negotiate with humans as equals. Their body language betrayed their discomfort. The chief diplomat, Sir Cole, a being whose species had been among the founding members of the hegemony, spoke first, his translator converting his multitonal speech to human language. "You deceived us. The accusation hung in the air between them. Admiral Donovan met his compound eyes without flinching. We survived. We watched as you conquered the Altarian Republic, as you stripped the resources from the Procyon worlds, as you enslaved the Tau Ceti colonies. We learned from each of your victims, and we prepared. The negotiations began in earnest. The terms proposed by Earth were unprecedented in hegemony history. Human diplomats demanded recognition as a sovereign power with the entire Sol system and its immediate stellar neighbors designated as protected space. More controversially, humanity required the hegemony to grant independence to 6 subjugated species. The hegemony representatives balked at these demands. Such terms would fundamentally alter the power structure that had existed for millennia, yet their position was weak. The Earth offensive into hegemony space had demonstrated humanity's ability to project military power far beyond their home system. In the months following the battle for Earth, Commander Mills and her task force had struck 3 hegemony colony worlds. Their FTL technology, another capability the aliens had believed impossible for primitive species, allowed Earth ships to bypass the fixed wormhole gates the hegemony relied upon for interstellar transit. These strikes had not been aimed at. Conquest Earth forces made no attempt to occupy the planets permanently. They were sending a message after each victory. They broadcast the same warning across all channels. We held back. We will not do so again. Now, at the negotiating table, that message carried weight. The hegemony delegates had seen the battle records. The humans had demonstrated technological capabilities matching or exceeding their own, yet intelligence suggested they had not revealed their full military potential. Even more, concerning the hegemony had never encountered a species that developed so rapidly. You propose to dismantle an empire that has stood for thousands of years. Sir Cole said, his voice modulated to convey dignified outrage. The Supreme Council cannot accept such terms. Admiral Donovan remained calm. The terms are not negotiable. Earth does not seek to destroy the hegemony merely to establish boundaries that you will respect. The independence of the 6 named species is non-negotiable. They suffered, most directly from your expansion. Their freedom is our primary concern beyond our own security. Behind the diplomatic language lay an implicit threat. The hegemony delegates understood this well. If they rejected these terms, Earth would resume offensive operations. The human strikes had targeted minimally defended worlds, deliberately avoiding major military installations or civilian populations. But that restraint might not continue. Dr. Reyes leaned forward, addressing the aliens directly. As you consider your response, remember that what you have witnessed represents only a fraction of Earth's defensive and offensive capabilities. The weapons we deployed were chosen specifically to counter your known technologies. We have others. The negotiations continued for days. The hegemony representatives attempted to modify the terms, seeking to preserve some measure of control over the species Earth demanded be freed. They proposed transition periods, extended timelines, anything to maintain the appearance of authority. Earth negotiators remained firm. They had studied hegemony psychology for decades, understanding their need to project strength and dominance, but they also recognized the aliens' pragmatism. When faced with an unwinnable situation, the hegemony would adapt. Their 1,000-year empire had not survived by fighting to the last ship, when defeat was certain. On the final day of negotiations, Admiral Donovan met privately with Sir Cole. The human and alien representatives stood in an observation lounge looking out at the stars visible through the stations. Viewport, your species has accomplished something unprecedented. Admiral, the hegemony diplomat, said. You hid in plain sight, developing technologies we believed centuries beyond your capability. You studied us, learned our weaknesses, prepared defenses specifically designed to counter our strengths. In all our history, we have never encountered such foresight, such patience. Donovan turned to face the alien. We had good teachers. Your previous conquests, your subjugated worlds, the survivors who managed to send warnings into space before their civilizations fell. We listened, we learned. The question now is whether the hegemony can learn. The alien diplomat was silent for a long moment, contemplating. You must understand, Admiral, that what you ask changes everything. The hegemony has expanded continuously for millennia. Our entire civilization is built upon the premise of our inherent right to rule. What happens when that premise is challenged not just militarily but philosophically? That, Ambassador, is for your people to determine. Donovan replied, but know this. Earth did not seek this conflict. We watched your scout ships in our system for 80 years hoping you would pass us by. When it became clear that confrontation was inevitable, we prepared thoroughly. Our goal was never conquest or destruction, merely survival and the protection of others who could not protect themselves. The peace agreement was signed the following day. The terms essentially unchanged from Earth's initial proposal. The hegemony recognized humanity as a sovereign power, acknowledged the Sol system and surrounding regions as protected space, and most significantly agreed to grant independence to the 6 species Earth had championed as. The negotiations concluded, Lieutenant Walsh approached Admiral Donovan privately. Do you think they'll honor the agreement? She asked. Donovan's expression was grim but determined. If they don't, they know what will happen. We've only revealed a fraction of our true capabilities. Earth held back during this conflict. Our most advanced weapons remained unused. She looked out at the stars visible through the station's viewport. The galaxy now understands that humanity is not to be trifled with. If forced, we will unleash our full fury, and no one wants to see that day come. In the decades that followed, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted dramatically. The myth of hegemony invincibility had been shattered. Other subjugated species inspired by Earth's example began their own resistance movements. The hegemony itself underwent transformation. Forced to accept limits to their expansion, they turned inward, developing their existing territories, rather than conquering new ones. The more progressive factions within their government gained influence, advocating for cooperation rather than domination. Earth emerged as a galactic power not through conquest, but through reputation. The species humanity had helped liberate became allies, forming a coalition of free worlds. The knowledge and technology they shared accelerated human development further. On the 50th anniversary of the Battle for Earth, Admiral Donovan, now aged, but still commanding respect, stood before the Galactic Assembly. This body, unthinkable before the war, included representatives from dozens of species, including the hegemony. She had been asked to address them on the significance of the conflict that had reshaped galactic politics. 50 years ago, humanity faced extinction. Donovan began. We confronted an enemy that believed us primitive, weak, unworthy of respect. We demonstrated otherwise. But the true victory was not the battles we won, but the peace we established. She looked across the assembly meeting, the eyes of beings from worlds that had once been under hegemony control. The lesson of the Earth. Hegemony war is not that deception leads to victory, or that military strength determines destiny. The lesson is that diversity brings strength, that cooperation outperforms domination in the long term. The galaxy is vast, with room for all our civilizations to flourish without conquering one another. The hegemony delegate, once a junior member of Zircol's staff, rose to respond. Admiral Donovan speaks wisdom. The delegation acknowledges the war taught us humility. It showed us the limitations of conquest. The hegemony was diminished, yet paradoxically strengthened. We lost territory, but gained understanding. We recognize now what we could not before. All species have the potential for greatness. The future belongs not to those who conquer, but to those who connect. The Assembly concluded with the signing of the Galactic Cooperation Accord, a framework for peaceful interaction between all spacefaring civilizations. The document included a section enshrining the right of all species to develop without interference, a principle now known as the Donovan Doctrine. As Admiral Donovan returned to Earth, she reflected on the journey from desperate preparation to galactic leadership. The warning humanity had delivered, first in battle and then in peace, had echoed across thousands of worlds. We